Welcome back. Now that the final decisions have been made for the hatch and house locations, Steve will continue building the deck structure. This week, we're putting in the Sampson post.
This is going to end up being one of the deck beams in the very stem, and I'm going to make the Sampson post kind of notch into it a little bit. So this beam I want to make sure is really nice and strong, and I've got a few chunks of this really thick locust that we're going to try to get a couple of these small strong deck beams out of. When we got the locust logs, we got one really biggest black locust I've ever seen. And the center of it was kind of rotted out, and when the locusts get that big, they end up like kind of clover leafing around, and they get a ton of included bark in them. So even though it was a huge tree, I knew that when we cut it open, there's going to be these big pockets of rot, and there's going to be this included bark, and so we weren't going to get any like really wide, beautiful boards out of it. So we milled it into 4-inch thick slabs. So we have these huge 4-inch thick slabs. And they're not very long, but so far they've been working out really well because I can get this strong deck beam out of them. We got the engine beds out of them, and I've got a few more chunks to play with. So having them as that thick blocking has worked out quite well. So I'm going to take this downstairs to the bandsaw and knock that up to size and start getting it fit. For a second before I make too many moves. Gotta make sure I get this right up here before I try to do anything else. Because the temptation right now is to cut here a little bit and bring this aft so that we come up in line with where the bronze floor down here is that's going to support the Sampson post. But I want to cut back on the Sampson post a little bit so it fits on there a little differently, which is going to move the Sampson post forward. So this might end up just being about right. So what I need to do now is pull some measurements and see about cutting into the Sampson post. And I got to hand it to whoever made these bronze floors and installed them, because we are very close to level, which is what we want plumb. Which is what we want the Sampson post to be. I want it to come plumb up through the deck. And we are that much off of plumb, which, that doesn't matter. You'll never see that. And yeah, good job, past Steve. I like it when I can like past Steve. It's bad when I hate past Steve. And future Steve will like and hate current Steve. That's just kind of how it goes when you live with your work. So 43 inches down from the top of the deck beam. The deck beam should be 2.5. Okay. Sampson post. So I don't know if you remember, but this is Sampson post. So when we were having issues with the planking and we had a handful of cedar planks on the boat, and we decided that we were going to continue with the oak, and we made the decision to take the cedar planks off. That was probably the low point in the project so far. Hopefully the low point in the project period. And we decided to take a couple days and work on some other little side projects and clear our heads before we ripped the cedar off. And one of those little side projects was the Sampson post here. So I got it all roughed out, which is going to save me a lot of time now. I'm going to leave the top really tall for now. We'll cut that off later once we see what the deck is like and how everything fits. But right now what I need to get cut down is the bottom end so that we can get it stood up in the boat and mate that deck beam to it. It's a cute little loft cut, huh? So that is crudely and rudely cut to length. It's gonna get shaped down there. Don't fret. All right, now I gotta figure out which end I want to be fore, aft, port, and starboard. I don't really know what matters, but these sides are like flawless. And that one's got those kind of black checks in it, which are kind of cool looking. Put those forward, I want to put those aft. Put them aft. Check things. That looks good. That was bronze. Okay. Yep. Cool. Well, I think I'm going to let that cool because it is hot, and go eat some lunch, and then get that ground up after lunch and see if we can finish getting that fit and get that deck beam put in and getting Sampson posts and its bracket and its deck beam in today. I'd be pretty happy with that. And here comes the rain. Good timing. I think that'll work. Well, the middle bolts is going to have to wait until the longer bolts come in, but they've shipped. They should be here in a couple days. And this is all got to come apart anyways to get sanded and varnished and sealed. But I'm going to go through and build as much of the deck structure as I can here, really, or that makes sense to. And we'll just take it all apart and put it all back and do it once. Bolt deck beam down.
we have a forward hatch. It's very exciting. So I worked on the forward hatch yesterday and I didn't film any of it. And the reason for that is kind of like the forward breast hook. I've never done this before, and I wanted to get my head wrapped around it all and do a few joints and kind of learn a few tricks and get at least a halfway decent system down. I'm sure I'll get better as I go before I try filming and explaining it, because trying to figure it out while you're trying to film in it, it can be a bit challenging. And with, I don't know, 30 something joints like this to cut, I could take my time and figure out the first 6. So here we are with the fore hatch, and this ended up ever so slightly different than planned. After talking with Thad and talking with Satchel, I decided to move the hatch aft just a couple inches, and that gives us a little more room up here where the windlass is going to go. So if you're up working the windlass, you won't be like sitting right on top of the hatch. And after the hatch, the mast is back here, and there's plenty of room either side to work on that, and you can get between the mast and the hatch. So I don't know, we'll see if I live to regret it, but I think I'm pretty happy with that. And Satchel and Thad are way more knowledgeable and experienced than me in this regard, and following their judgment there a bit. And then the other thing, and this was totally my faux pas, is I went through and riveted all of these the doubled up deck beams together, and I spaced the rivets all really nice and prettily. And then what I realized is that I totally forgot to account for the hatch. I remembered about the blocking for the mainmast, so I left that out. That was good, but I totally forgot about the hatch up here. So according to Atkin, the hatch is supposed to be 24 inches by 24 inches, and my hatch is 24 inches by 27 inches. And that was just so that I could dodge a couple of rivets that were here. I just moved it out a little bit. Not going to make really any bit of difference. One of the nice things about that though is it gains a little bit more headroom here in the forepeak. So this is where there's some bunks up here in the forepeak, and the hatch here will be the only standing headroom. And remember, I'm standing right now up on the staging. So if I were to go back down here where the floor is, you can see that even just a little hatch here is going to make a huge difference. And these joints, let's see if I can get the jig. The joints are cut using this little bronze jig. So I got this out of Larry Parday's book, Classic Boat Construction, and this is what he did. And I made a wooden one that was a little different, and so these two joints are cut with that wooden one. And I didn't totally love how it went, so I changed it a little bit, and then I did this one, I think, and then I still wasn't totally happy with it, so then I changed it one more time for this one. That's our final rendition. I use the fore hatch here as kind of my experimenting place for that. The fact that they're a little bit different does not matter at all, will not cause any issues, not a problem. But I got it figured out, so I'm going to use this pattern for the rest of them. And we will cover that more when I get to cutting some more carlins and some more half beams.
Welcome to the screening room in Newburyport, Massachusetts. So a couple of weeks ago, I ended one of the videos with an update letting you know that my wife and I, we bought a movie theater here in Massachusetts, and we moved, my son, Oscar, and all of us moved from Hudson Valley, New York, out here to the coast of Massachusetts. So all that's been happening in the background, and we've been getting this place ready. I've been ripping out a floor and putting down a new floor. We've been dealing with insurance and film distributors and all of this stuff. It's all sort of coming together, and we're going to be ready to open this place on October 9th. Just wanted to give you that update and show some shots of around the place so you can see what's going on here while I'm also editing these videos for you, if you're interested. Also, if you're interested, I'm releasing volume 2 of the soundtrack for Acorn to Arabella on my Bandcamp page. So the link to that is in the description and also right at the top of the screen. Thanks to everybody who supported the last one and bought a copy of it. Super, super grateful for all that support. So I hope you enjoy that, and I'll stop yakking and I'll let you go on about your day. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for supporting. Thanks for your kind comments, and keep them coming. and we'll see you next week. Next week, we'll look in detail at how Steve is putting together the carlins and half beams, and the main mast blocking gets built on deck. And Alix has returned to the Northeast, and will return to the project and videos soon, so stay tuned.